right down to this floor level, and built a brand new chimney with 3 flues and a working fireplace in the front room and a working fireplace upstairs that are built to historical standard appearance, but modern code.
Right.
And a furnace flue. So this was all new, and the chimney above the roof line was in rough shape. So that had to be redone anyway. So we did all of that stuff was done as a, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 project that the Historical Society paid for.
And then,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The stuff that was in here, has any of this been moved? Has any of it been moved over to the old fire station?
Has any of it been moved to the fire?
The stuff that was in here a few months ago.
I don't think so. Trying to think what's there, but I don't think so, no. I
so
don't
nothing
think we've
really
taken much out of here. We moved it around in the house.
You might want to just say that this is an open meeting now, the selectmen.
Yeah, we've opened the Board of Selectmen meeting. And due to the coronavirus, we're wearing masks and having a tour of the Bullard house.
There you go. Okay.
I think I used to know this. When we talk about restoring this building, it's to what time period? Because we're obviously not building it to like Florence's.
No.
Done. Okay.
There's no time period. It's being worked on to include features from all of its life.
Okay.
For instance, the window out there from the 50s.
Right.
Very dubious that such things existed in the time the house was new.
Right.
But it's typical colonial revival from the 1950s.
Right.
And there was a lot of stuff that was done in here at that time that therefore that's a document from that time. And we've got the cupboards that are in the old kitchen in that tenement. Some of it's from the 1940s, and the new cupboard that we're going to build, we're going to put the doors are there. That used to be in the town hall kitchen. Right. And those were put in the 40s. So we're going to build something that's in, that's going to be a little business of the 1940s, that piece. There are other various features. I mean, upstairs there's a room that's got a hardwood floor.
Right. And
we believe that hardwood floor was put in by the Legion when they were using it for a meeting room in the after World War I in the 1920s. And at first it was really a mystery.
Right.
Something fell down.
The ghost of a Legionnaire. Close the door.
But then we finally, Chet Cole, Cecil Wheeler, they were putting in hardwood floors for people all over the place.
Right.
So they put one in for themselves. And that's the only thing that makes sense for that, kind of.
Right.
So that's stuff that we really would want to keep.
Yeah.
Even though it's not in keeping with much of anything else around it. And so this way to put this all in one period, so therefore you just say, hey, this part from this wall back was 1850s. Right. And there's almost nothing left of it now except some basic structure.
Right.
And we've strengthened that considerably because it was really built on the cheap.
Right.
When we did the roof there, we had the roof off. The roof deck material was all scrap lumber in the 1850s.
Okay.
And it was a mess. And we finally decided to take it off and put on a whole new roof tree and plywood roof and so forth. So it's an entirely new structure. It follows the outside line of what was there, but it just was not very restorable or worth restoring. And it was a better route to go long term. But at the same time, that's not something that's obvious in any way. You can see it from in the back attic here if you go looking, but it isn't easy to see. So it just was a sensible way to fix it.
So what do you expect? To find out you have Tim, is it Tim?
Yeah.
Come. What do you expect that he'll be saying this is the most important?
Well, he's going to look at the structure.
Right.
He's going to look at the whole house, the structural issues that need to be done.
What do you think he's going to say is one of the first things we need to do?
Oh, I think sill work on the front of the house. I mean, that's something we've had that we knew we knew was one of the things that we, in fact, that was in the proposal that went to the select board before, was the millwork in front of it.
And sealing up the building too, making sure that it's sealed, you know, to protect it from exterior elements. Okay.
A lot of the stuff we've done, especially out here in the back, is taking care of a lot of those issues, but then sealing it up was a big thing.
Because you heat this?
Hmm?
You heat this?
Did we
You heat it with oil, yes?
Yes, this is heated with oil. The Historical Society put in a new oil furnace some years ago now, close to 10 years ago now.
Was that the kitchen or was this the kitchen?
Oh, this is the kitchen here.
And
This
is
was.
this, and this one is
Right now, this is, yes, it's A.
was it
This
a dining
addition,
room? Or?
this addition was put on in sometime between 1910 and 1930.
Yeah.
38 hurricane. It included an outhouse.
Okay.
At one time, when the Hawkins came in the 50s, they expanded it on that side about, you know, 3 feet or so to make it a little bigger, and made it into a room, used it for bedroom. And then after they left, other owners opened this up, who had the whole house.
Right.
They were living in the whole house later. They opened it up and made it the dinette,
Okay.
eating space off of the kitchen.
Right. Looks kind of like that's what it would have been.
Yeah, and that's what it was until we got it. And we had various ideas about how to use it, and we still have discussed what might go on here. But it's, you gotta have some place to prepare exhibits and plan things. You gotta have some place to have for an office, a variety of different things you wanna do. And
Right.
this is likely to be used for some of those things. We've got another little room upstairs that might be a good office too, because it heats better than the rest of the place. That's kind of toasty when the rest of the house is, the heat's down.
And that's a relatively old floor in there too, right?
Yeah, that floor is probably the one your grandmother put in.
Wide.
That's generally how I decided that it's an older floor, is the wider the beams, the
Yeah.
older it likely is.
Yeah,
And so this floor still needs to be done too.
Yeah.
this is a new,
Yeah.
this is new plywood and new underpinnings.
Yeah.
And new foundation along that side.
Right.
And this will have a board floor too. And a painted board floor in a serving kitchen. I mean, this is going to be the same kind of kitchen you got over in the town hall, a place you can do refreshments and stuff, but not to do significant cooking or anything.
Right. And you're not looking to
Is
try.
this the boat that goes on?
Yeah.
No, that's what's from the Hearst house.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's from the Hearst house.
Upstairs are just bedrooms?
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed
These doors are out of Corona's house, the Divine House, and with about an inch added to them, they'll work for handicap. So that's the plan, is to rebuild them slightly for handicap, and one will go for the bathroom, and one will be a door into that room. And that we'll be able to make them work for handicap as well as otherwise, and they require some work by somebody that really knows what they're doing to make it look right.
Is it, can we go upstairs?
Oh, sure.
Is it-
How you doing, Holly? I don't know.
Yeah, we have a brand new fireplace down there. This was, it used to go all the way to that next wall.
Oh, yeah.
The curved
Yeah.
ceiling continued.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
this was created around 1790 when they built this end of the house. And it clearly is a public room for the inn.
Right.
And who knows how it was used. I bet they had beds in it and let people sleep on them.
Right.
And then they'd shove those out of the way when they wanted to have a public meeting or something. but it was after it became domestic dwelling,
Same.
and the division happened at that time into the two tenements. Then somebody put this wall in so that they have an additional house.
So where you dug down over there below the wallpaper, is that there sort of like close to an original wall?
Yeah, that's a plaster wall.
Yeah.
Russell
Yeah.
put wallboard on the inside as a method of insulating the place. The wallboard is still there downstairs.
Right, right.
When we do this room, I hope to have it off.
Right.
Because one of the things that we've got to do with the front wall, and we've talked to one and another about it, is that we'll insulate it
Right.
while they're working on the bottom, and
Right.
wherever they have to open up to do structural work, we'll insulate it, and then we can take this stuff off and have go back to last wall.
The plaster wall is aged from when? Do you have a sense?
Probably 1790.
Right, I was gonna say, it has some of that look to it, so.
Of course, the windows were all changed
Right,
in
right, so where it might work.
in the early 20th century or late 19th. These went to 2/2s in this part of it,
Right,
and then Russell and Florence put in the stuff that's here,
Right.
which were unit windows from the 1950s, and that was I'd really love to get those two replaced with some larger ones, more the size of this one, that would, and maybe 6/9s, which were in here at an earlier time.
right,
I don't really care about trying to change all the windows,
right,
but I'd like to do that in this room, because this room is going to be a great room.
Right.
And we've got wainscot. I mean, behind you are mantel frames.
Yeah.
The front one is from the Estabrook house at Estabrook Road, Sauter Hill Road.
right.
And that's a great revival period one, which I hope to use in that other room, because I think it's revival. Remodel. This one is out of Cora May's house, and the one that pairs with it, it's slightly larger, is the one that's down in the parlor now. I'll put that in there.
So parallel with firehouse.
And then this one came out of the van at Joni and Thomas. I think it may well have been what's out there dining room. Very plain, very plain. Three of those, and those are things that, you know, you can get. Wings that react. It didn't have it.
Oh, I don't remember.
And this stuff is all scrapbook. Yeah, almost all of this is from this house. And this stuff will go in this attic. Yeah. It was before, and it will be again. And I was in there to do the dark floor. Those big boxes are boxes of boxes. I mean, these are boxes that we have, and when you buy the boxes, they come in these. And that one still got some more boxes in it. And we just put one out the other day. And this is a part of the IBM PC.
Yes.
Very, very early. You know, it's one of those things you want. We don't want a lot of them, but one, yeah. And there again is chairs. There's a ladder back, small ladder back. The one behind it on the left is a early 20th century. Like, it's a 30s chair. That came from and what you want samples of different stuff.
Yep.
Numbers of people.
Right.
So,
So you're gonna take out the wall to reestablish that as a ballroom?
That's always been a debate. As of right now, the plan says you keep it because it's part of the document of how the house developed.
Yep.
The other thing is that this wall, when we had the man from the Society for Preservation of New England Antiquities years ago, he found more microscopic paint samples on this wall than anywhere.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a document of
Yep.
things that have happened too, in terms of decoration too. And this room heats really well. They make a good little office, but we'll see what happens. You shut the door, this one, when you got a house at 55 or something, and this room is toasty.
So again, Florence House will never this side of the house.
And this is that hardwood floor.
Yep. Oh, okay, this.
And this might be done as a bedroom,
Right.
bed chamber. But that's the other set of stairs. Stuff that's here, this whole island in the middle, and some of them stuff over here is either from Florence or B. Jones. And that's why we say space. What we're hoping is that when we reorganize stuff, we're going to have a good amount of space there that we can take some of this space into in order to work on it and process it up there. I mean, this is all other stuff that's come in over 20 years plus.
You'd end up needing a small army of catalogers just to calibrate it out.
Yeah, well, and we got the computer.
Right.
We can catalog stuff in the computer, but it takes longer than it does.
Yeah.
And
And if I remember correctly, that computer software is old and obsolete now anyway, too. And that's the problem with computer databases sometimes.
well, yeah,
They
and
don't have the longevity of paper document, although they're searchable better than a.
it's searchable. We've got the computer
Right.
is an independent computer.
Yep.
It is not hooked to the
Yep.
internet.
Yep.
And our whole thing was to keep it as secure as
Yep.
possible. And so it'll just go on and hump along for
Yep.
years, working on
and
the collection.
the stairway goes down to the,
It goes to
Front entry?
down below here.
the front room.
Yeah. And now we took a whole bunch of stuff that was in this pile here, and some of it's still there, clothing stuff.
Yep.
But when we did the last big clothing exhibit at the town hall, we took a whole bunch of it and included it in the exhibit. And then it was, when it came off the exhibit, it was packed and
Yep.
is in the big boxes that are down at the building now. And that will, all that stuff will go up into the new building up back. Yeah.
But there's a shoe history, right?
Yeah, Berlin is there was a shoe factory.
Shoe factory, yeah.
This was very much a shoe town in the mid 19th century. It built up. The town built up in the 40s and 50s. It was bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And for the Civil War, we're at, I don't know, 1,100 people or something. And then after that, it declined.
Yeah.
And especially after 1900 for a while, till about 1920, and then it started coming back. After World War II, by the time of World War II, we were almost back to the 1,100.
Yep.
And then since that time, it's grown in fits and starts, but it's grown in the time since.
And pink flamingos, right?
Hmm?
Lemonster likes to lay claim to the flamingo, but that's got Berlin roots
yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's some of that stuff.
Was Featherstone from here?
Hmm?
Featherstone was from here?
Featherstone grew up here. He wasn't born here, and he didn't live here after he got pretty much grown up. But he grew up here and went to school here and all that stuff. Yeah. And his family's here, and they got buried here, so he used to.
Yep.
Yeah. Now there's a wall of closets that Russell built,
Right.
so that you had a closet that opened to that room and another one over here that opened into this room. And we finally pulled it out. It wasn't a great wall, and it was, we really needed the space for exhibitry. So that came out, and in fact, that's some of the shelves that used to be in the linen closet on this end. And this is, you can see right over there. But the door that was in the closet there is the original closet door from the ball. So we put that back where it originally was.
Which one?
And, yeah. And there's a chimney, another chimney there that'll probably come out one of these days.
Floors and also could never sit still.
Hmm?
Floors and also could never sit still. They were always
No.
building, adding, changing.
Something new to try and look at.
Is that what R is? It's Ross, right?
It's Robert.
Oh.
I share a first name with my dad.
Oh,
Well, that's what your R stands for.
Yeah. But our middle names are different. That's could be another junior.
There's some boxes of collection stuff back in here, but a lot of this is exhibit stuff.
Right.
Things you use to exhibit. Various sorts. When we have a big town hall exhibit in the town hall of clothing, all of this stuff will be out with, we'll have 20 or 30 dressed figures and those things. And we have hat boxes here with, not hats, but heads.
Oh!
That's on.
a collection of heads.
Heads and wigs and so forth. Yeah. And this ceiling had a lot of we still got to finish.
No, I get it. And I'm not about have you thought how many years this was?
He's good and he's the sort of next round when he starts when he thinks that second year, we still want to we want to get some of this stuff, which is also something that's really expensive because I remember just all the effort that went into to preserve that sort of the footings for that front kitchen. They found rotted beams under there. And that's a lot of money that nobody ever sees. So you, from the exterior, like, oh, no one's doing anything in the Bullard house. But in reality, there's a ton of structural stuff going on.
Yeah,
Well,
we
and
just need to get it to. a point
And the
where
chimney
people can
jar.
come in.
Right, the chimney jar, right? Yeah.
And I mean, you know, yeah, okay, you gotta do, well, that doesn't, you know, and yet those are things that are vital to-
Right.
from an infrastructure standpoint.
Yep.
And I got really upset with Larry because of some of the letter that he wrote, and it keeps coming up as the more recent letters, the
Right.
same stuff in it. He said, oh, well, most of it's cosmetic and it isn't, you know, well, that's just absolutely not true.
Right.
And he wrote the letter with all the good things.
It's a socially distant.
Except for the leaf stuff that blocking the.
What are the what are the bricks from?
The brick chimney that used to be here, it's been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
And when we were talking with the building inspector a while back about, what we were planning here, they said, oh, well, you gotta brick up the holes in the chimney, even though it's not a chimney anymore. And I thought, we're gonna work on something we don't need and don't want, so I took it down.
I see.
Got rid of it.
We
And
still have one more to go, right? We still have one more.
we still
to
have
go.
one more on the other end of the house that we can take down. It's no longer. But this one was, of no use, and now we've got we can have the space in the house. There's a stack of bricks that are all in good shape in the green area.
I see
And
that
then
behind the
these are
ivy.
some more, yeah. These are a few more that that was the chimney.
What's under the tarp? What's under the plastic?
Things that Jerry
that's
wanted to say.
Awful from in here. It's various scrap lumber and stuff from in here. We did sort it when we put it in there some years ago, but we also, that's a pile that we need to pull apart and decide what in it is worth holding on to and what not. But it's all stuff that come out of the house pretty much.
No.
But not all of it.
Hmm?
I mean, that is the
That's a very.
Hearst house. And the
Oh.
stuff- and the stuff against the building is the Hearst house.
And in the back here, there's the door.
It looks like a boat. It looks like there's a boat
That's
on
what
it.
Oh,
I
yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a
Yeah, it
boat
looks
that
like
goes
the
with the
boat in
house.
backyard.
Yep.
This, of course, was, at one time, it was a little bit, basically.
We should really should film this yard.
The bathroom on the other side. And then
Property line.
There's a stake right between, out there. From this side, right in this corner, there's a stake, a wooden stake in the ground.
And it follows the tree line here.
Yeah, there was a tree in question that they had an issue with coming down, right? Did that tree ever come down to build the new curatorial building?
One of them did.
Yeah.